Hey everyone, my name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Thank you for subscribing if you're a new subscriber. If you haven't, please subscribe and click the thumbs up button if you like this content. You know, I've read in the comment section that some people refer to number of shares. They're referring to this company has a lot of shares, etc., etc., etc. I'm going to go over my opinion on the number of shares that a company has. And it may go counter to what you think. So this is called number of shares. So this is the number of shares that a company has outstanding. So first I'm going to talk on share dilution. This is additional shares that affect the existing shareholders of a stock. They'll release shares to the public. It could be through private placements or something like that, where they raise money for the company and they're using it to not invest into the company, but they're using it to operate. They're using it to cover their operating expenses. This is not good for a shareholder because what happens is the number of stock increases and their earnings per share goes down. So your shares are now less valuable. And as typically what happens is there's going to be more shares, and since some of these companies aren't making very much money or any money at all, they get sold off because of share dilution. So really it's not a good thing. It decreases your share of the company, it decreases the earnings per share, and overall is negative for an existing shareholder. Now, the number of shares does not matter on the way up. And I've seen comments saying that people think it matters. It does not matter. If you're a new investor and you invest during the boom of an up cycle and the company stops releasing new shares, they stop diluting the shares, the number of shares does not affect the performance of the stock. A market cap double is still a market cap double. The price of the shares at this point are irrelevant. Does that make sense? The number of shares does not matter. A market cap double is still a market cap double. The number of shares does not matter. Okay. So the share float, I've heard a lot, some people talk about share float. This is the number of shares able to trade for a company. This can be one factor to determine how easy or difficult it is to obtain the shares of that company, especially if you have a lot of people that are not willing to sell their shares. So if it's hard to get shares, little money seeking ownership of this company can drive the stock price very high very easily. And that's why some of these companies like Nova Royalty, I didn't even look at the share float on it, but I knew it was really difficult for me to get shares of that company when I was buying it. And it went up recently over 100%, and I think that's probably why. It's because there's not many people selling that their stock, and they're just holding on. So I bought when it was low, and I'm not selling. I'm holding on. Also keep in mind that it might be better to think of the float, the share float, as a pool of money. A company with a larger float but a very low stock price might just as easily be moved as one with less float and a higher stock price. Because if $1,000 comes in and it moves the price, it can do that with irrespective of a higher stock price or a lower stock price. It depends on your float times your stock price, if that makes sense. And how willing and unwilling people of the company are of selling those shares. So investing in a company with a lot of shares, should you care about the number of shares? And I'll be honest, I don't even look at these metrics. I look at market cap. I don't even look at the number of shares. I would look to see if the company needs more money and if they need to dilute shares again. That is what matters. That is what I don't like. I don't like share dilution. I want to be buying after all that stuff has happened. A company who has diluted in the past doesn't mean it's a bad investment, so long you invest in it when the bull market is here. So the timing is important. If they continue to dilute shares to operate the company, obviously that's not a good thing for you as an investor. So gains the company makes. The number of shares does not affect price performance. A market cap of 10 million, and when you double that market cap, is still a double. What happens is the number of shares affects the share price. A double would still be a double of the share price. It's just at a different price. The number of shares has no effect to you as an investor so long they are not diluting your shares. That is what matters, is that share dilution. That matters. So the conclusion here is share dilution waters down your investment and does affect the value of your shares. That is negative. The number of shares determines the price of those shares, but it does not determine the value. Share float does not matter as much as how much money it takes to move the shares. And share price or float does not affect the performance of a company. So this would be something to look for. You look at how much cash the company has and how long that's going to, quote, float them operating wise to get them to a good place where you think that the price of uranium is going to go up. Some of these companies need money. They need to raise money to make a project happen. I think Bannerman's one of them. So what I think as an investor, this is where the magic happens. This is where you get very good investors versus ones that they'll shy away from certain companies. The companies that everyone is shying away from because of whatever these reasons are. It could be the number of shares. It could be they don't have the cash to make the project work. They've diluted in the past. Those are the ones, one of those companies is, I think, will be the winner. It will be the company that returns the most because everyone right now doesn't want to own them, and that's where the value is created and realized. That is why they could potentially be a gem. It's thinking about companies from a different perspective than everyone else. Everyone else is looking at a company, and I'm just going to give you an example, like Bannerman, saying, well, how the hell are they going to raise $850 million? Now, I'm going to reverse something and say, what if a company who's built billions of dollars of nuclear power plants, maybe it's many billions, maybe it's 50 billion or 100 billion, whatever it is, they built a whole fleet of nuclear power plants, and they have no uranium to run it. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to go to a market and say, crap, nobody has money. Nobody has uranium, I should say. No one, I need uranium. These people are booked. This person's booked. But you've got Bannerman. They say, hey, look, we need to go into this. I'll put some money up, but you guys need to put the bulk of the money up and I'll pay it back. They'll say, we got to do it. Maybe there's some angle that we're not looking at, or the market's not looking at in its entirety, where when conditions change and shortages develop, that the companies are now, they can get that money. They can get the loans. They can get the project rolling, maybe even from the company that they're going to sell to in the future. Now, I don't have all the answers here. I'm just trying to let you guys know that the number of shares, the share float, is not a reason to not invest. It's not a reason to not invest in a company. It's not a reason to not invest in something. That stuff doesn't matter so long that they don't dilute it while you hold it. That's the key. Now, one of the gems, I don't know which one it is. This is where the special sauce, this is where everybody, if it's a restaurant, everybody goes to that restaurant to eat for this special thing. This is what makes an investor that much better. This is why you need to know the company and have almost insider knowledge of it, so you ensure that your investment doesn't get diluted and that you have the hidden gem and it's not, you know, a POS, so to speak. But one of these companies that everyone's thrown in the trash bin right now, some of those are going to be hidden gems. Some of those will be the big returners. I don't know which one, but it's good to spread the money out, get a little bit of each, just in case that one hits. I'll go through another video clip on betting strategies and whatnot, and my view on it. So if you guys like this content, click the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't, and thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.